Hey there, friends. Have you ever found yourself in a conversation that started off fine, but quickly turned into an emotional ambush? One moment, you're discussing something mundane, and the next, you're being misquoted, misunderstood, or outright attacked. Suddenly, you're in a verbal wrestling match, trying to defend yourself while keeping your cool. Sound familiar? Well, you're not alone. We've all been there, trapped in a moment where someone twists our words or baits us into looking foolish. It's frustrating, right? And here's the kicker. It's not just about holding your ground. These situations can quickly escalate, leading you to lose not only the argument but also respect in the eyes of others, and perhaps even yourself. But what if I told you there's a way out? A way to navigate aggressive conversations with finesse, flip the script, and walk away with your dignity intact, and maybe even an apology? That's exactly what today's video is all about. 6 verbal techniques that can turn the tables on aggressive people and make them apologize. Whether it's a subtle, "so you're saying" trap, a barrage of unrelated questions meant to overwhelm, or the dreaded hidden presuppositions, these strategies will equip you with the tools to handle it all like a pro. We'll not only break down these conversational tactics, but also share real-life examples to help you spot them in action. Plus, we'll dive into how to stay calm, persuasive, and even win over your audience, whether it's one person or an entire room. So if you're tired of feeling blindsided in tough conversations and ready to take control, stick around. Oh, and don't forget to leave a comment below to share your own tips and experiences. I love hearing from you. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of our upcoming insights into mastering the art of communication. Let's dive in and show those conversational bullies that respect, not aggression, wins the day. Recognizing aggressive conversational tactics. Let's be real for a second. When someone comes at you aggressively in a conversation, it's easy to feel blindsided. Your heart races, your thoughts scatter, and before you know it, you're either saying something you regret or walking away frustrated. I've been there, many times. And let me tell you, the worst part isn't even what they say. It's that sinking feeling afterward, wondering why you couldn't handle it better. Sound familiar? The truth is, most people don't realize they're being set up until it's too late. Aggressive conversational tactics are sneaky like that. They're designed to push you into a corner, make you feel defensive, and worst of all, make you look like the bad guy. The good news? Once you recognize these tactics, you can stop them in their tracks. 1. Early indicators of aggression. The first step is spotting aggression early. It doesn't always come in the form of yelling or outright insults. Often it's hidden in the tone of voice or the words they choose. Think about it. Have you ever heard someone say something like, "What do you have to say for yourself?" That phrase alone screams, you're guilty until proven innocent. Here's an example. In a heated debate, someone might use words like admit or confess to frame you as if you've done something wrong, even if you haven't. Phrases like, "Doesn't it bother you that?" or "Shouldn't you be ashamed of?" are subtle red flags. When you hear these, take a mental pause. They're not just asking questions, they're baiting you into justifying yourself. Number 2, the "so you're saying" trap. The classic "so you're saying" move. If you've never encountered this, consider yourself lucky. It's when someone deliberately oversimplifies or misrepresents your point to make it easier to attack. For example, let's say you're discussing the challenges men face in society. They might say, "So you're saying women are the problem?" Here's the trap. If you jump in to deny it, you're already playing their game. They've shifted the conversation, and now you're defending a point you never even made. The best way to handle this? Take a deep breath and calmly say, "Actually, that's not what I'm saying. Here's what I meant." Then repeat your original point. This not only diffuses the attack, but also shows that you're in control of the conversation. 3. Hidden presuppositions. Now this one's a little trickier to catch. Hidden presuppositions are when someone sneaks an assumption into their question, forcing you to either agree with it or sound defensive. For example, imagine someone asks, "Why should women put up with this?" That question assumes 2 things. That there's something to put up with. That you believe women should put up with it. If you answer the question as it is, you've already accepted their assumptions, even if you don't believe them. The trick here is to call it out. Say something like, "Hold on, before I answer that, I think we need to address the assumption in your question." This tactic not only redirects the conversation, but also forces the other person to rethink their approach. 4. The smash technique. This one's a favorite among aggressive debaters. The smash technique is when someone combines unrelated points or bombards you with multiple questions to overwhelm you. For example, why do you support X when it's caused so much harm, and why aren't you addressing Y? It's chaos wrapped in a question, designed to throw you off balance. The key here is to slow the tempo. Respond with something like, "Let's address one thing at a time. First, about X." This shows that you're not rattled and that you're in control of how the conversation flows. Now take a moment and think. How many times have you seen or experienced these tactics in real life? Recognizing them is like turning on a light in a dark room. You suddenly see what's really going on, and instead of feeling cornered, you feel empowered. Here's what I'd love to know. Have you noticed any of these tactics being used on you before? Or maybe you've caught yourself accidentally using them? Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And don't worry, we're just getting started. Stay tuned, because in the next part, we'll dive into how to turn these situations around and come out stronger. Trust me, it's a game changer. So my friends, now that we know how to spot those sneaky conversational traps, the real question is this: how do we actually persuade someone in these aggressive situations? How do we not just hold our ground, but guide the conversation in a way that earns us respect and maybe even changes their mind? Here's the thing. Persuasion in a heated conversation isn't about overpowering the other person. It's about staying calm, clear, and in control. Easier said than done, right? But stick with me, and I'll walk you through how you can turn even the most hostile interactions into meaningful dialogues. Rule 1. Avoid the straw man trap. Let me share something personal. In the past, when I felt attacked, my knee-jerk reaction was to mirror their behavior. If they twisted my words, I'd twist theirs right back. Oh, you think I'm oversimplifying? Well, let me show you what oversimplifying really looks like. But guess what? That never works. It only escalates the conflict and makes both sides look bad. What does work? Avoiding the temptation to strawman their argument. Even if the other person is misrepresenting your words, resist the urge to misrepresent theirs. Instead, show them that you're genuinely listening. Say something like, "I want to make sure I understand your point correctly. Are you saying?" This simple act of seeking clarity can disarm their aggression because it shows you're engaging with their real argument, not an exaggerated version of it. 2. Use visual imagery to make your point. Here's a tip that changed the way I approach conversations. People are more persuaded by what they can see in their mind than by abstract ideas. Let me explain. I once had a debate with a friend about environmental policies. I started by throwing out stats and technical jargon, thinking I was making a solid case. But they didn't budge. Then I shifted gears. I painted a picture. Imagine your kids walking on a beach littered with plastic. Imagine the ocean so polluted that there's no marine life left to see. That's the future we're heading toward. That moment? Total shift. Suddenly, it wasn't just about data. It was about something they could feel. So instead of just saying, "This is a long-standing issue," try something like, "This issue has been building up for so long that 1/3 of a billion years ago, there weren't even trees yet." Vivid, concrete examples stick with people far longer than abstract reasoning. 3. Show that they already agree with you. Here's a little secret I've learned. The best way to persuade someone isn't to prove them wrong. It's to show them they already agree with you. Let me share an example. Imagine someone is challenging your right to express your opinion, saying it might offend others. You could respond with, "You're absolutely right that words can hurt. But isn't it true that free speech is necessary for us to understand each other, even if it's uncomfortable? Like right now, you're willing to risk offending me to challenge my views, and I respect that." See what happens there? You're not fighting them, you're aligning with them. You're showing them that they're already practicing the very principle you're defending. And trust me, when people feel like they don't have to change their stance to agree with you, they're far more likely to come around. 4. Stay emotionally neutral. This might be the hardest part. But hear me out. When someone is coming at you aggressively, their goal is often to provoke a reaction. The angrier or more defensive you get, the more they feel like they've won. I used to fall into this trap all the time. My voice would rise, my heart would race, and before I knew it, I was saying things I'd regret. But I've learned that the best response is to stay calm. Assume a relaxed posture, pause before you speak, and lower your tone. You'd be amazed at how much this shifts the dynamic. Suddenly, you're the steady presence in the storm, and they're the ones who seem out of control. If you need a moment, don't be afraid to take it. Say, "Let me think about that for a second," or even repeat their question slowly to buy yourself time. This not only keeps you composed, but also shows that you're being thoughtful instead of reactive. Now, my friends, let's bring it all together. In moments of aggression, persuasion isn't about dominating the conversation. It's about listening, aligning, and staying grounded. You don't need to win the argument, you just need to guide it toward a place of mutual respect and understanding. But here's what I'd love to know. Have you ever tried any of these strategies in real life? Did they work? Or maybe you've got your own go-to techniques for handling tough conversations. Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And stick around, because in the next part, we'll talk about something even more powerful. How to find common ground even when it feels like your world's apart. Trust me, it's a skill that can transform not just conversations, but relationships too. Let's keep going. All right, my friends, we've reached the most challenging part of navigating tough conversations. Finding common ground. This is where the real magic happens. Not just diffusing tension, but building bridges. It's about creating a moment where both sides stop seeing each other as opponents and start seeing each other as people. But let me be honest, finding common ground isn't always easy, especially when emotions run high. There have been times when I felt like giving up, thinking, what's the point? They'll never understand me. But here's the thing, when you manage to find that shared space, even in the smallest way, it transforms the conversation. Suddenly, there's no longer me versus there's just us. So how do we do it? 1. Acknowledge their perspective. Let me share a personal moment. I once had a heated argument with a close friend about politics. We were on completely opposite sides, and honestly, it felt like we were speaking two different languages. I was so focused on proving my point that I wasn't even listening to theirs. Then I tried something different. I stopped arguing and said, "I hear where you're coming from, and I understand why you feel that way." You know what happened? They immediately softened. For the first time in the conversation, they felt seen and heard. Acknowledging someone's perspective doesn't mean you agree with it. It simply means you respect their right to have it. A phrase as simple as, "I see why this matters to you," can work wonders. It's like saying, "We may not agree, but I value you enough to understand where you're coming from." 2. Highlight shared values. Here's a secret that's helped me countless times. Even when it feels like your world's apart, there's almost always something you both care about. It might take some digging, but finding that shared value is the key to unlocking common ground. For example, I once had a tense discussion about climate change with a coworker who didn't believe it was a serious issue. Instead of arguing over the science, I asked, "Would you agree that leaving the planet better for future generations is important?" They nodded. From there, we started talking about things we both cared about: clean air, preserving wildlife, and creating jobs in renewable energy. By focusing on what you both value, you can shift the conversation from conflict to collaboration. It's no longer about who's right or wrong, it's about working together toward a goal you both believe in. 3. Share personal stories. Here's something I've learned the hard way. Facts alone rarely change minds, but stories? Stories have power. I remember once trying to convince a relative to take a health issue more seriously. I gave them statistics, expert opinions, the works. None of it landed. Then I told them about a friend who ignored similar symptoms and ended up in the hospital. That story? It hit home. When you share a personal story, you're not just presenting information, you're inviting them into your world. You're saying, "This is why this matters to me." And when people see the human side of an issue, they're far more likely to connect with it. Number 4, ask open-ended questions. Sometimes, the best way to find common ground is to stop talking and start asking. Open-ended questions show that you're genuinely interested in understanding their point of view, not just waiting for your turn to speak. For example, instead of saying, "Why don't you care about this issue?" try asking, "What led you to feel that way?" Or, "What's most important to you in this situation?" I tried this approach during a difficult conversation about a workplace policy. I didn't agree with my colleague's stance, but when I asked, "What concerns you most about this change?" they opened up in a way I didn't expect. By listening, I found a way to address their concerns while also standing by my own beliefs. Number 5, stay patient and persistent. Finding common ground doesn't always happen in one conversation. There will be times when the other person seems immovable, no matter how hard you try. And that's okay. I've had conversations where I walked away feeling like I made no progress, only to have the other person come back days later and say, "You know, I've been thinking about what you said." It's a reminder that planting seeds is just as important as harvesting the fruit. Staying patient and persistent means knowing when to step back and give the conversation room to breathe. It's not about winning in the moment. It's about building a connection that lasts. Number 6, find the us in the conversation. This is the ultimate goal. The moment you both realize that, at the end of the day, you're on the same team. It's not about being right, it's about finding solutions that work for everyone. I'll never forget a time when a friend and I were arguing about something trivial, but it felt huge in the moment. We were both so stubborn, digging in our heels. Finally, I said, "Look, I don't want to fight with you. You're my friend, and that matters more to me than this argument." That simple statement shifted everything. We stopped arguing and started listening. Now, my friends, here's the big question. How do we bring this into our own lives? How do we present ourselves in difficult conversations in a way that not only diffuses tension, but builds understanding? It starts with listening more than you speak, valuing connection over being right, and remembering that every conversation is an opportunity to grow. I'd love to hear your stories. Have you ever found common ground in a tough conversation? What worked for you? Drop a comment below and share your insights. And stay with me, because next time we're going to talk about how to take these lessons and apply them to the relationships that matter most. At work, at home, and everywhere in between. Let's keep growing together. As we wrap this up, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've explored. These techniques, whether rooted in Stoic wisdom or practical communication strategies, require practice and a commitment to self-awareness. They're not quick fixes, and they won't magically transform every conversation overnight. But with time and effort, they can help you approach even the most challenging interactions with clarity, composure, and confidence. The goal here isn't just to win a conversation. It's about emerging from these moments with your integrity intact, earning respect not just from others, but also from yourself. By focusing on understanding rather than overpowering, by leading with patience and reason, you create space for real connection and growth, even in the most difficult situations. Engage with the community now. I want to hear from you. Have you tried any of these techniques in your own life? What worked? What didn't? Are there other strategies that have helped you navigate tough conversations with grace? Share your insights in the comments. I'd love to learn from your experiences. And if you found this guide helpful, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for more strategies like these. Let's keep growing together and mastering the art of meaningful communication. Until next time, stay composed, stay curious, and most importantly, stay true to yourself. See you soon.